What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Not So Stupid podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the different dials that help you make healthy living, good nutrition, great fitness a day-to-day staple. Because I think when we think about healthy living, when we think about being active, when we think about being fit, and all these different kind of things, we think of it as something you have to do all the time at the highest level. And that's really not how it works for anything, for that matter. I think when we see people that are really successful at what they do, really healthy, consistent with their workouts, always make smart food choices, we think that, oh man, these guys have the highest motivation at all times. They have incredible discipline, incredible willpower. And no matter what the situation is, they're always making the right decision. And of course, that's a perception that we have. We don't see the full picture. But the reality is it's never like that for anybody. And knowing that it's not like that for everybody, it's not going to be like that for you, and it's not the actual accurate depiction of how things should be, is going to be really powerful. Now, how things will be is following through with these dials that we're going to be talking about today. And what the dials are is basically a leveler for where you're at, what you're feeling in the situation you're experiencing. So if you look at the dial, when I talk about dials, I'm thinking of these knobs that you twist. If you're a newer Gen Z millennial person, maybe you've never played with a dial, but it works with plays with the intensity of different things like the volume of a TV or switching channels if you're super old school. But the whole idea here is that you have levels to everything that you're doing. In the most highly motivated situation, you have the desire, you have the energy, you have the drive to do the most. So what that looks like is tracking all of your food, hitting your protein and fiber on the mark, doing your entire workout, logging your entire workout, and doing your warm up and cool down afterwards, getting 8 hours of sleep, reading, the designated reading hour that you wanted to read for that day, whatever the case may be. You have all these things you want to accomplish, and you accomplish them all because you're feeling super motivated that day, right? We know that motivation is fleeting, though. We know that motivation is temporary, and we know we can't rely on it to always tell us how to do things or when to do things, right? And that's where the dial comes in. Some days it's not realistic for you, whether it's because of how you feel motivation-wise, whether it's because of how your schedule is set up, whether it's because of an outside circumstance that is limiting your ability to do this to the fullest capacity. We can't do all of these all the time, every single day, the way we want to. So when you can't do those things, dial it back a little bit. So maybe you can't hit your calories, protein, and fiber perfectly, right? Those are the big three we always want to work on. Whether our goal is fat loss or health, we have to hit our calorie goal, protein goal, and fiber goal. Maybe we can't do all of those. Maybe we can only hit calories today, and that is fine. No harm there. Maybe you ran out of chicken and you can't have chicken for dinner or steak or whatever protein you normally have for dinner. You ran out of it. Someone else in the house ate it, and you're not going to hit your protein. No, it's not going to ruin anything for you in the long run, but still doing what you can in that situation is going to be the most powerful thing, right? You still have some control over what you're doing. You still have some say over how you're performing, and you still have some say into still progressing towards your goal. Because if you hit your calories, sure, it's not perfect. You're not hitting your protein, like we said, and possibly not your fiber, but you're still hitting your calories. That is something. That is still a step forward and a step closer to where you want to end up. And you're still creating change and momentum in some way. You're not slowing down. You're not slowing down the momentum. You're not reversing it. You're not going backwards. You're still moving forward. It's not the absolute perfect thing, but it's still a positive change that you're making. It's still a positive step to the new person that you want to become, and achieving the physical change that you want. So with nutrition, right, in a perfect world, we hit calories, protein, fiber. In a not so great day, not as motivated to hit everything on the point, maybe we only hit protein and calories. On a even not as prepared day, things aren't going our way, we don't have as much control over our food choices, maybe we went out to eat, maybe we went over our friend's house and they didn't have meals that supported our goals that day. No harm there. We do what we can and hit our calories only. And maybe we're in a situation where we can't track food at all, right? We don't know how many calories we're eating. Then we eat to our satiety level. So we eat to fullness or 80% fullness for that meal, and make sure that we're drinking consistently. But doing something to some degree, regardless of what is going on, is going to help keep you going forward. It's the difference between 3 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step forward, but it's still a step forward. It's still moving you. And it's better than not doing anything at all. It's better than giving up entirely. It's better than throwing everything away that you worked so hard for to this point. And that's kind of how it works for the nutrition side of things, right? I want to give it examples for the big 3, which is basic activity, fitness / training, and nutrition. So I think we could go into fitness now. So with your training, right, ideally we want to go through a full warm-up, get our mobilization in, get our joints warm, get our heart rate up, do our activation and priming exercises, do our metric-based lift, and then do our optimization lifts. All of that. Timing varies from person to person, but we do want to try to get all of that. Some days you're super sore, don't feel like doing it, your body's not feeling like doing it. Some days you don't want to go to the gym. If you're a morning lifter, it's winter right now, you wake up, your bed is super cozy, and you just cannot drag yourself. Some days you can drag yourself, other days, some days you can, talk yourself into it and still get a workout in. Other days is just damn near impossible to get yourself to get out of bed. And every now and then that is going to be okay, but you don't want to make a habit of that. So what I would always suggest is take what is given to you. Take what you can do with that. So start off with just your warm-up and see how you're feeling. This is more so motivation dependent when it comes to training, and sometimes time dependent, schedule dependent, right? If you're running behind, maybe you can't do the entire workout as well as you could have. So you still do the warm-up, and then you do your activation and your metric-based lift. So you do warm-up, couple warm-up the warm-up for your mobilization and to bring your heart rate up, the activation phase to get your muscle and body ready, prime your central nervous system to do the main lift, and then you do your main lift, right? And that is kind of the bare minimum there of getting a solid workout in. Of course, the rest of the workout is still going to be helpful. The rest of the workout would be this to do, but this is still better than not doing anything at all, right? And that's the key here, is still finding a way to do something despite not being able to do all of it or not being motivated enough to do all of it. Maybe you just had a really terrible day and you just can't. Some days you just can't, man. And you need to take a step back, and that's okay. But allowing yourself that ability to take that step back and make that conscious choice and still show up for yourself is going to be the key here. So that's kind of how I would change things for fitness, is dropping out the exercises from the bottom up. So start from the beginning, do as far as you can, and stop there. Sometimes you get as far as the warm-up on days where you're really not motivated and you really don't want to do any of the activation, you really don't want to do the metric-based lift. That's fine. You gave yourself a fair shot to get started with the workout. You know for sure that you don't want to do this workout. You can go, right? You could try again tomorrow. Sometimes you start the warm-up and you're like, oh man, actually I really feel good. Because sometimes the hardest part is actually getting started. That's the biggest resistance to finishing something, is starting something. So you get started, you do the warm-up, and you're like, okay, yeah, I could do a workout. And you end up doing more than you anticipated. But you got to give yourself that fighting chance first. You got to give yourself the warm-up. You got to give yourself a couple reps and see how your body feels and give it a fair shot before making that final say. Put yourself in a position to be able to succeed, or to be able to do and accomplish the full task. And whether you do or not, is you'll find out as you go through it, but put yourself in that position first before giving yourself the L in advance, right? So that's how I would kind of dial things back when it comes to training. And with activity, we do want to have a certain amount of steps we have throughout the day, right? 10,000 steps is the magic number, just because it's a nice square, large, arbitrary number. Really, in most cases, we want to aim for 7 to 12,000. If you're a long time listening to the podcast, you know that to be the case. But maybe you can't go on a walk that day. Again, just schedule didn't work out. Maybe the weather's terrible and your normal walking path is just destroyed, and you don't have the right apparel to go through with it. That is fine. You could opt for a shorter route that is more paved and whatever. Maybe you do a walk up and down your house a couple times, up and down the stairs. Maybe you just park further away at some places and just walk a further distance from the car to the door of, Walgreens or something. Maybe that's all you could do that day. That's fine. But you're putting yourself in a position to do something, to be more active, to get some activity in, even though you can't ideally get all of the activity you want to get in or could be getting in, right? So the main thing here with this dial situation is first understanding and recognizing you don't have to be perfect. You are never going to be perfect. There are going to be days where you're perfect, but it's not going to be happening every single day. And that's okay. That is normal. You're a human being. You're going to experience that. But that doesn't mean because you can't be perfect, you shouldn't do anything at all. You still have to give yourself an opportunity. You still have to take a step forward, no matter how small it is. So just dialing back what perfect looks like for you and doing some variation of that, some smaller variation of that. So you're still getting something done. You're still moving forward at the end of the day. That is the big key here, is dialing things back, making it more manageable to fit the situation, whether it's because of a time restriction, a equipment restriction, a resource restriction, a motivation restriction, whatever it is, finding a happy medium between doing something and being perfect. And as long as you do that, you repeat that every single day, you're going to be successful. But again, it's breaking free of that thought pattern of all or nothing, breaking free of that thought pattern of perfectionist behavior that really is just a disguise for being lazy and not taking action at the end of the day. If you got offended by that, I would venture inward and ask yourself why that's offensive to you, because it probably means something. It's probably resonated with you in some way that you've never wanted to explore or have been too hurt to explore to this point. So that is today's episode, guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you found it helpful, please do share it with a friend. I would really appreciate that. And until next time, we will see you on the next episode.